So my name is Dr. Shemal Patel, and I'm a psychiatrist based in Surat. I'm currently working at Bharuch. I did my undergraduation from Shemal Medical College, Surat, and my post-graduation in psychiatry from BJ Medical College, Ahmedabad. I've had around a little over 3 years of experience in psychiatry, both studying and working in a psychiatric department. And right now I'm working under the National Mental Health Program at Bharuch General Hospital. Okay. So the first thing that we have to remember is that anxiety as such is not dangerous. Like anxiety is not life-threatening. Anxiety is an evolutionary way. It is a protective mechanism. It protects us from any dangers or threats around us. So that is the first thing that we have to remember, that anxiety as such is not a dangerous thing. And given the current situation, the current uncertain atmosphere, it is completely understandable to be anxious about everything, about our own health, about the health of our loved ones, and about the future, whether it be financial or any otherwise. So that those are the two main things, that anxiety as such is not dangerous, and it is quite understandable and quite rational to be anxious about the current situation. So when would anxiety be a problem? If it limits your daily function, if it affects you in your daily life, whether it be work or personal, then it is something that you need to pay attention to. So how do you pay attention to that? Well, first of all, limit your news consumption. That is very important. The current situation is so precarious that no news channel is really responsible towards reporting related to coronavirus. So the first thing that you can do as a viewer is that try to limit your news consumption, whether it be through live TV or whether it be through social media. I think social media is very responsible in this manner because there is no regulation there. Uh, One thing that I would personally advise people to do when it comes to trying to limit their news consumption, uh, check all your news. You go about your whole day, however you are going, checking news all the time throughout the day whenever you get time. At night, try to recall. Try to recall everything that you saw today, all the bits and pieces of news that you saw today, and ask yourself how much of this helped me in any way, like how much of it helped me making any decision in my daily life. And we'll find out that most of the news is just of no consequence to our daily life. And when we realize that, we'll be able to cut back on our news consumption and subsequently on the unnecessary fear and anxiety that we might invite. Apart from that, I'd say one other thing that is very important is socialization and isolation in a balance. Like as we all know, social distancing, we all say social distancing, but many people believe that the appropriate term should be physical distancing rather than social distancing. We don't want to cut out each other off completely. We only want to maintain physical distance. So that is very important. I would say we should all ask ourselves how much, what do we want in life? How much interaction do we want from friends and family members and everybody? And then ask ourselves, how can we use technology in helping us achieve that? So I would say if you are thinking of a friend or a family member, you can always drop a text, you can call them, you can video call them. I would say groups of friends can always schedule Zoom calls or WhatsApp group calls or whatever to help keep themselves in touch with each other. And if not just conversation, there are so many other ways as well, like let's say group online video games and Ludo King or whatever. So there is more than one way of keeping yourself connected to friends and family members, and I think that is very important in this current situation. Apart from that, I would say for elders and children, I'd say we need to sort of modify their schedules a lot. Elders need to feel connected. They are already very isolated. and they are already at high risk. So they are already feeling a lot of stress and fear regarding this current situation. And the physical distancing added to that just adds to their loneliness. So I think as kids, if our parents are, if our elder parents are living away from us, it is always good to call or drop in a call once or twice a day, let them know that you're thinking of them, and let them uh, vent out any of their anxiety, if any. As apart from that, in case of children, I think it is much more delicate. Like you don't want them to go out, but you don't want them to be hooked onto, say, video games or the computer screens or any digital screen for that matter. So for kids, it is very important that you maintain a schedule, like similar to how a school has a timetable. I think it would be better if you uh, develop a schedule for kids that allows them both work and play in a balanced manner. And apart from that, I think a lot of kids will mirror the anxiety of their parents or their caretakers. Like if the elders in the house are very anxious, are visibly anxious, or visibly fearful about this situation, it will pass down to the kids. So I think as adults, it will be it will be our responsibility to sort of allay their anxiety as well, and also try to explain it to them in the best way that they can understand it. So that would be the general tips about anxiety in general. Apart from that, again, three things: relaxation, exercise, and personal time. Those are three very important things. Relaxation, everybody has their own ways to relax. Some like music, some like to sleep, some like to play video games or watch movies or whatever. So everybody can do what they want. Exercise, any sort of exercise, not necessarily physical strenuous exercise, just yoga or meditation would also be good. And personal time, I think that is also a very important part in this situation where everybody is forced to stay at home, everybody is forced to interact with people for with a set group of people for a prolonged period of time. And that sort of increases the tension a lot in households. So one important thing would be to set out maybe like an hour, half an hour or 2 hours of time that is for yourself, and wherein you do only what you want to do. I think these are the general tips that that would help most people get over this anxiety, this current situation. Uh, yes, so that is a very good question. OCD is obsessive compulsive disorder. So you obsess over something and then you are compelled to do something. That is obsessive compulsive disorder. And in general, what we as psychiatrists say that if someone says that they have OCD, they generally do not have OCD. OCD is something that is very debilitating. It is something that is extremely limiting, not just a bit annoying to ourselves. Having said that, it is understandable. Again, it is understandable that you have a slightly higher preoccupation with cleanliness or sanitization in this current situation, because that is what everybody tells us. That, wash your hands for 20 seconds frequently, do not touch things, do not accept outside parcels, do not accept food materials without washing. And those are all rational things. And our obsession or our preoccupation, as I would call it rather, with cleanliness and sanitization right now is generally rational. What we have to ask ourselves is if those preoccupations are to a very extreme degree, wherein they are in a way interrupting our daily routine or the routines of our family members. In that case, you could say that it is at a slightly higher level and needs medical attention. But otherwise, generally speaking, if you're maybe washing your hands every 1 hour, 2 hour, and obsessed, slightly preoccupied about the cleanliness and sanitation around yourself, it is not really something to worry about. Okay. Again, a good question. And I would say that the first step would be acceptance that yes, a loved one or a near one has been tested positive. Okay, that is the fact. and fact has to be accepted. What we can do after that, the general feeling, the first feeling would be a fear or anxiety about our own health and the health of the loved one who has tested positive, and the health of any other vulnerable group person around in our family, such as our elderly parents or our little children. Uh, it is all understandable. It is all rational, and given the situation, it is perfectly fine. What we can do is understand. Again, this ties in with the news consumption thing, because a lot of news is just completely negative and not based on science. Uh, if you look at it objectively, coronavirus or COVID-19 is uh, generally mild for most people. It will be a mild illness. It will cause a few days or a week's symptoms, and then it will subside. That is for the majority of people. A lot of people are infected and have no symptoms whatsoever as well. And out of the people who have symptoms, a lot of them are able to rest and recuperate at home. A very minor amount of people need hospitalization, and in that population, a very minor amount will need ICU admission. So objectively, when we look at it, it is not something that you have to worry about so much. Like, uh, and there is no point in that. When we look at it objectively, we understand that coronavirus is not something that is life-threatening to most people. Yes, in people who need hospitalization, if you have shortness of breath or a difficulty in breathing, then yes, it is understandable, and you have you need medical attention in that case. But otherwise, you can be assured that more probably the probability of you recovering without any problem is much higher than the probability of you needing ICU admission. That is something that is very important. And apart from that, again, what you can do is give yourself enough time, relax, have fun with friends and family, and uh, dial back on the news consumption. Those are the most important things that you can do to ensure your safety.
So,
Exactly. Again, this ties down with the limiting news consumption thing, as well as limiting our screen time, as we
mm,
call it. In general, for adults, the problem is that a lot of people also work on their laptops or their phones. So it's a bit difficult, and they'll probably have to uh, have a more self-discipline in that sense, that when it comes to limiting down their screen usage. As for kids, because kids are a bit vulnerable towards developing these sort of behaviors, uh, where if you give something to them and they enjoy it, they probably want it more, a lot more. And as I said, the first thing that we probably can do is have fixed schedules at home as well. And the other thing is as parents, what we can do is divide our responsibilities. The mother and the father, the grandparents, they can all divide their responsibilities uh, as far as the kids are concerned. So you could have time slots where the kid is watched by the mother, and you could have a time where the child is watched by their father or the grandparents or whatever. So those are very important things. That also helps ensure that the burden of child caring does not fall on just one person. In India, it is usually the mother, but we should avoid that. The mother is already stressed as such, and if possible, we should help divide the burden of taking care of the children at home. Apart from that, I would say uh, that there will be a lot of game time as well. That if kids are left unchecked, they'll usually find their way to any sort of online games or whatever uh, at home. And again, rather than completely stopping that, completely putting a stop to that, I'd say we should allow them like an hour or half an hour of time before, or once or twice a day. You can always have the token economy system. So what the token economy does is that for every good thing or every responsibility or every chore that a child completes around the household, you could offer them like 10 minutes, 20 minutes of screen time. And that generally would also help them learn the concept of rewards and efforts that you could put in. Apart from that, I'd say the very important thing is that we usually neglect what a child feels about situation, any situation. In this case, the coronavirus situation, the pandemic. The child is, as the old saying goes, that a child's mind is a blank state, and that is something that we have to take into consideration as parents. A lot of them will be looking at their parents, their grandparents, the adults in the house, and they'll pick up the anxiety or the fear or the irresponsible behaviors that might be shown by the adults. So those are things that we as adults and parents should keep in mind. Uh, there will be a lot of questions in the child's mind. Why are we not going to school? Why cannot I go? Why can I not go outside to play? Why can I not go and meet my friends? And these are all questions that you will need to tackle in a very delicate manner. You want to inform them. You want to tell them about the situation in a way that makes them understand, but in a way that does not overwhelm them. You don't want them to be extremely fearful about this particular situation, but you want them to know the gravity of the situation. And that is a very delicate balance that parents will have to somehow get right. Yes, this is a general question that a lot of people have, and it is a common uh, conception that in these sort of cases, the number of psychiatric patients will increase. And from based on what I have talked about with other medical professionals as well in my field, uh, as such, the general prevalence of any disorder will generally continue to be the same. But yes, the number of people who are acutely anxious about this particular situation has definitely increased. Apart from that, as you said about OCD, OCD ties in very closely with this whole paranoia. And there are many patients of OCD. There are different types of patients of OCD. And one type is the cleanliness or the sanitation type. They are completely obsessed and compulsed towards cleanliness in general. And that subgroup has seen a certain a visible level of worsening as far as their symptoms are concerned, because they were already very preoccupied with cleanliness and sanitation. And now in this situation, it has only it has only fueled their obsession even more. Apart from that, generally most psychiatric disorders are going to remain at the same level. But yes, as I said, the acute worsenings or the acute anxiety that has been brought about by this coronavirus, we see that a lot in our setting as well.